Good evening and welcome to the free training. This is Josh from the Part-Time Drummer, and we're just waiting here for a few minutes to see if anybody else kind of rolls in before we get started. But again, welcome to the free training. We'll be starting here momentarily. Hey there once again, this is Josh from the Part-Time Drummer, and I want to welcome you to tonight's free training. This is the ultimate guide to becoming a great drummer, and we're just waiting for a few minutes to make sure everybody gets a chance to get in here before we get started, but we'll be getting started here in just a second. Hey there, good evening. If you're just joining us, my name is Josh from the parttimedrummer.com, online drum lesson platform that offers online drum lessons and courses for primarily beginner and intermediate students. And I just want to welcome you tonight to the training, and we're going to go ahead and get started here. So tonight's training, we're going to be covering a lot of material in depth, and we'll be going for, I would plan for up to 1 hour. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, and I'm excited to get started here real soon. Tonight we're going to be covering the 10-step ultimate guide to becoming a great drummer. And throughout this presentation, I'm going to give you a ton of great tips on how I believe that you can really set yourself up to become a great drummer. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so as we get started, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I am currently 36 years old, living in North Carolina. I've got 2 kids, and I've been married for over 11 years. I've been playing drums for over 20 years. And started back when I was in my teens, and I was initially trained by a guy named Billy Cuthrell, who we'll kind of talk about a little bit later on in the presentation. But he was my first official drum teacher, and he really got me started off on a great start and really set the foundation for me as a drummer, and really kind of influenced even the way that I train other drummers today. Throughout my life, I played with a variety of churches and gospel bands. Primarily did those in my teens and early 20s. And then when I went to college, I went to Barton College, where I majored in recording technology. And also, while I was there, I would play with the Barton College Orchestra. I would play timpanis and snare drum and various other percussion items when the orchestra performed. And in addition to playing drums, I also play bass guitar. I like to play piano and keyboards, and of course I like to do quite a bit of live sound and recording work too. So that's just a little bit about me as we get started here. So as I progressed through my career and my musical developments and things like that, and I've taken on various students along the way. I've discovered a couple of different things. First, the internet is really flooded with a massive amount of information, and that can be good in some ways if you know what you're looking for and where to look for it. But specifically in the area of music education and drumming education, it can be very confusing for a beginner and a young drummer to kind of find their way on the internet without proper guidance. There's tons of videos out there featuring, the top drummers in the world, which are great to look at, but it can leave you a little bit overwhelmed and perhaps discouraged at the amount of technical ability that these drummers have amassed over the years playing, or some of it is just pure talent and God-given abilities. So it can really be distracting when you're just getting started on the drums, trying to set yourself up to that level and just falling short of expectations. In the professional education realm as well, there's a variety of, there are some really good drum schools out there, to be quite honest. There's the Collective, Drummers Collective in New York. There's Berklee College of Music in Boston. And there's a couple other ones in various major cities around the country. And these are great schools. And if you can afford to go there and you have enough talent to go there, that's great. I definitely recommend you do it. But for most people, it's very expensive to attend these schools. And they're located in major cities, so you would need to be able to move to those locations and either find work or have enough savings to pay your way while you go through college. So it presents a major disadvantage for the young drummer or the drummer who's just getting started. So our solution to these problems of the massive amount of confusing information, incomplete information also on the internet, and the expense of professional drum education is sessions just like this, where we provide you information on what you need to do to become a great drummer. So this is one resource, the 10-Step Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Great Drummer, which we'll cover tonight. Or if you need more in-depth drum lessons and kind of personal coaching, a course, a roadmap that starts from the very beginning and covers all the details that you need to become a great drummer. So that's what we're here to talk about tonight. As we get started, though, I just need your permission and your participation. We're going to present this, and I'm going to present this in my style and in my opinion. I'm sharing with you my thoughts and ideas. These have worked for me, and these have worked for a lot of other people as well. But if it doesn't work for you, that is perfectly fine. I am sure you should be able to find something out there that can work for you as well. For those who would like additional help and additional training, we'll be offering our membership at the Part-Time Drummer at the end of the presentation. And if you had additional questions, I'll give you my contact information now, and I'll also present it at the end of the course as well. My email is josh@parttimedrummer.com, and you can also visit the Part-Time Drummer website, where there's a contact form if you would like to get in touch with me as well if you had additional questions after the presentation. And just as this disclaimer, I don't think it will happen tonight, but it has happened before. We are a family-friendly business, and it is possible to experience children interrupting occasionally. Like I said, I don't think that'll be the case tonight. I'm in my drum booth, which is somewhat isolated, but you may encounter a little bit of background noise. Also, for all of those of you who have attended, you will get a copy of this training as well to be able to access later. As soon as it's over, we will send it to all those who attended tonight. So that way you can kind of review it, and if you miss something, if you want to go back over something, you'll have the ability to do that at the end of the presentation. All right, so we'll get started here on the 10 steps. All right, so step number 1 to becoming a great drummer is you want to find a great teacher. So how do you find a great teacher? Well, there's a variety of methods. The first one is to try to find a local teacher. And you can do that by searching Facebook, getting on Google, even Craigslist. And you may be able to locate someone in your area who is offering lessons. Quite a popular method, done that way before myself. The second way is you can go into the local music store if there's one in your area. Most mid-sized to large cities have some sort of music shop, and that's kind of a hub for the local musicians. So there's a pretty good chance that if your area has a music shop, then you may be able to find somebody who can teach you drums there. Also, again, depending on where you live inside of the town, there's a lot of cities, mine included, that kind of have their own private little music school. And the way this works is it's exclusively music lessons, but they offer music lessons for like a wide range of instruments. So it would be more than just drums, probably include guitars, obviously, piano, and maybe bass guitar, of whatever variety of instruments they happen to have. So definitely want to check those out as well. Then as we kind of move up the ladder here, kind of mentioned it earlier briefly, professional music schools such as Berklee and the Drummers Collective. The thing about those, in addition to what we already mentioned about them being in major cities and being pretty expensive, you also have to have a relatively high level of skill just to even gain entry into these schools. They definitely require auditions, and they require you to demonstrate a certain amount of proficiency, including the ability to read music well. And you would probably need to know some really fundamental things. I believe last time I checked, you had to play certain rudiments for them, and you had to play a certain amount of styles and things like that to actually get into the school. So if you're looking to do something like that, I highly suggest you train with a good teacher for a while before you do that. But now there's also another alternative to all these previously mentioned methods due to the internet and changes in technology, and that, of course, is online drum lessons. And online drum lessons offer you the convenience to be able to train at your own home, at your own pace, and it's usually quite a bit more affordable for people to do because you're not having to pay to go back and forth to and from lessons. Of course, that burns up gas and time, and you also don't have to pay necessarily a person live every time to train you. So there's some cost savings advantages to doing online drum lessons. So whichever method you choose, you want to check for a couple things for the teacher that you ultimately pick. You want to check for their experience. You want to see that this person has an extensive musical background. They know what they're talking about. They have some kind of educational credentials to prove that they can actually do this. And you also, the biggest thing I would say is you want to be able to review their work and been featured in magazines such as Modern Drummer and Entrepreneur magazine. And here you can see him at a recent NAMM show with Gene Simmons and a couple of head honchos from some of the major drum companies here. So there he is, great teacher, great first teacher, and had a great influence on my drumming career. He really set me straight with the fundamentals, taught me a lot about the rudiments, reading music, and started me getting used to playing for a variety of styles on the drum set. All right, step number 2 into becoming a great drummer. You want to learn your rudiments. The rudiments that I'm referring to are set out by the Progressive Arts Society. And what they've done is they've constructed, as the basic formula anyway, 40 standard drum rudiments. What rudiments are, if you're not familiar with them, if you're kind of just getting started on the drums, rudiments are a set of sticking patterns that you can play primarily starting out on the snare drum. They were written for the snare drum, and that's where you initially learn to play them. And once you become proficient in playing the rudiments just on the snare drum, you can actually move them around to different areas of the drum set. So there's 40 of them, but they're all kind of divided into various categories and kind of major groups or major families of rudiments. So the first kind of major group is singles, which is very close to what it sounds like. They're single strokes, which really means you're alternating right and left. So it's a combination of those. Double strokes are similar to what they sound like. They're composed of 2 sticking on each hand, which makes a double. And there's various combinations of those as well. Triplets, very similar. You're doing 3 notes to a hand, or a grouping of 3 anyway. Paradiddles, we're starting to increase in complexity here. Paradiddles are fundamentally a combination of singles and doubles put together. Flams are going up in complexity as well. The best way to describe flams is that you're playing, you're hitting the drum, the snare drum, more than likely, kind of at the same time with the stick. So both hands kind of hit the drum at the same time. Now there's nuances to that, but I'm not going to get into that tonight to confuse any of you who are kind of just getting started. And then there are drags, which a drag is a sticking pattern where you kind of have one hand sort of lagging behind the other hand and playing kind of ghost notes and things like that, which if you're not familiar with that, don't worry. We can talk about that on a later training and stuff. But learning the rudiments is very important because it allows you to build very good hand coordination. It strengthens your hands. You get your hands used to playing patterns. It helps you develop the ability to, like I said, strengthen your hands, play patterns, and it gives you a common language to be able to talk about various things. If you read a drum magazine such as Modern Drummer, or even watch videos of famous drummers, they're often referred to these rudiments as things that they're incorporating into their drum set. So when you get really good at the rudiments, you can actually apply them to the drum set in a whole bunch of different ways to create really interesting patterns, drum fills, and things like that. So I recommend that you learn these. The rudiments are available at the Percussive Arts Society website. This is just a kind of a copy of like one set of them. You can see kind of the first 15 or 16 of them there. So just take a look at them real quick and just kind of get an idea what they're like. Okay, so like I said, you can pick up a free downloadable copy of those at the Percussive Arts Society website. Now, step number three to becoming a great drummer is I recommend that you learn how to read music. And you might ask yourself, why? Well, the reason why is because if you learn how to play music, you can actually teach yourself to play drums, and you can learn a lot of different things on your own. That's kind of what I do now. Now that I know how to read drum music, I can go to a local music store, or even go on the internet, Amazon, or one of the music retailers' websites, and I can pick out a subject that interests me, buy the book, take it home, get it sent to my house, whatever. And then I can, kind of study at my own pace. I can learn whatever I need to learn because I can read the music. I can read exactly what the drummer was playing, and I can learn it for myself. Another great reason to learn to read music is it's a required skill for, like what I was mentioning earlier, for professional drum schools. So if you want to get into one of these schools, you're going to have to demonstrate reading proficiency. Not only to get in, but to continue to stay in, because you have to continue to use that skill. So I definitely recommend that you learn how to read music. And then the third reason why I recommend it is because if you want to become a professional drummer and you want to get paid to play the drums, you'll be much more in demand if you can read music, especially in a studio environment where you go in and record music. A lot of times, the producers of the music already kind of know what they want you to play, and they've kind of set up that pattern using drum machines and things like that. But when they want a live drummer to come in and make it sound like a live drummer, they'll have the part written out that they want you to play. And so obviously you would have to know how to read that. So like I said, that's another reason to learn how to read music. This is one of my favorite drum books that I started out with. It's older, very old book, but it's still available. I think you can find it on Amazon. This is a great book. I recommend it for beginners. It'll really help you get started and learn how to read drums and drum music, specifically when we're talking about the snare drum. All right, so step number 4. If you want to become a great drummer, you need to learn a variety of styles. So again, you kind of may ask yourself why. Number 1 is it will make you much more in demand as a drummer if you decide to do professional work, especially in a recording studio. So if you just think about it from a recording engineer or a producer's point of view, if there's one drummer that they know that can play almost anything and they know him well, they're going to call that drummer back again and again. So if you can play a variety of styles, rock and funk and jazz and Latin and R&B or country or whatever it may be, and you can play all those styles well, you're going to get called back over and over again into the studio because they'll know you. They're going to know you play well. They're going to know your styles and what you're capable of doing. So there's no point in them, trying to go out there and find another drummer that can play some style that they need if they know that you're the guy. So it's going to make you much more in demand. It's also going to help you out if you play in cover bands. And as you know, cover bands are kind of bands that play kind of popular music, usually from a set genre or a set era, like 70s, 80s, 90s, all that kind of stuff. And of course, within each era, I should say, there's going to be a variety of songs that were produced during that time period using a variety of different styles of music. So if you want to be a good drummer for a good cover band, you want to be able to play a variety of styles. Also as well, if you're in the church drumming scene, as I have been, you also need to learn how to play a variety of styles as well. A well-developed music program will contain a variety of styles from a variety of artists. So it really helps out if you're able to play, even in church, a variety of styles. And I've kind of mentioned some of the styles already, rock, funk, jazz, R&B, country, Latin styles. There's even more Afro-Cuban, a wide variety of styles out there. This is just a basic list to kind of give you some ideas. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to master every single one of these styles because that's a lot of different styles. But you definitely want to be able to at least play a few common beats and a few common drum fills from these styles. Just knowing a few solid, drum beats from each style can go a long way into helping you. All right, so step number 5 to becoming a great drummer. This may or may not seem obvious to you, but you want to practice because practice is what makes you good. Practice makes perfect. You know, all those little cliches as you've heard before, but they're actually quite true. The biggest obstacle, though, to becoming a great musician, is just spending the amount of time with the instrument. So you have to make it a priority. You have to be serious about it. And you have to make it a part of your daily life, quite honestly. And I know a lot of you will probably be saying, well, I just don't have time. I've got so many obligations and responsibilities. And I believe you, because I do as well. But you want to try to make it part of your daily routine. So here's a couple tips on how you can do that. Number 1 is try not to think about practicing music as, a huge long block of time. Try to split it up into smaller time increments. So for example, if you've got 5 to 15 minutes of free time, that's a great chunk of time to go work on something. In 5 or 15 minutes, you can play through and work on a rudiment. That's a great set for a rudiment. You can learn a drum beat, work on a specific drum beat, a specific drum fill. You can even play through a song that you're trying to learn, 3 or 4 times, depending on the length of the song. The average song is about 3 to 4 minutes for a pop song anyway. So, that's 3 or 4 times you could play through that song in that time period. So I want you to start thinking about practices as in small chunks instead of like one large chunk of time, because it's very hard in our modern society to be able to find a huge, large chunk of time where you can actually play music. So what you want to do is kind of split your practice into various times in the day, such as early morning. Lunch breaks are great for practices, or even later at night. So I know you probably won't be able to do this every day. I understand. We're realistic here, the part-time drummer. But if on a perfect day, if you were able to practice 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes on your lunch break, and 15 minutes sometime before you go to bed, hey, that's 45 minutes in a day. That's not a bad day for an average drummer, who, if you're not making your living as a musician, or even if you are, it's hard to find that time, even if you're professionally employed as a musician, because you're going to be doing a lot of other things during that day. So yeah, definitely think about trying to split up your practice times into smaller chunks. We also have a great advantage today as modern drummers, that there's a lot of tools that are available. There are a lot of tools available to us that can help us practice now. Being that the drums are such a loud instrument, they're a large instrument, and they take a lot of space. So the tips that I would give you for that is definitely, first of all, invest in a practice pad. A practice pad is a kind of a rubber pad that you can throw on top of any surface, a snare drum, a tabletop, even your lap, and it becomes like a portable snare drum. They're big enough to kind of mimic a snare drum, or you can even get 6-inch practice pads, and I even think they sell smaller ones now. I think I don't know if they still do, but they used to sell a practice pad that you can even strap around your knee, kind of like Velcro around your knee, so you could, play wherever you're sitting down. So the modern technology and developments really limit the excuses there are to, practicing. Additional things you could do, I know some of you may live in areas where you can't practice the drums normally like a normal acoustic setup because of limitations such as, neighbors. Oh, sorry for the noise in the background. I knew there would be something that would come by. But anyway, you might have neighbors, you might have small kids that, you need to go to bed at a certain time, so that's going to limit your ability. But there's ways around that, and I've experimented with every single one of them. You could buy a set of electric drums. I own both electric and acoustic drums for that very reason. There's other reasons as well, but one of them is, electric drums are quite a bit less in volume than acoustic drums, so it allows me to play. I even used to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and practice on my drums in the house in our bonus room. But I did have some acoustic paddings and stuff up there to kind of reduce the volume, but most of the time it didn't wake up the kids, which is a good thing. Other tools, if you insist on playing an acoustic kit, which is fine. Nowadays they make a variety of heads that are a lot less loud. For example, the Remo Silent Stroke head. I've got these on my acoustic kit when I'm practicing. They still make noise. They still feel relatively like a drum kit, but they're kind of made of a mesh material, and they really help out with the volume. There's also low volume cymbals. I have the Zildjian Low Z, I think they're called, or low volume cymbals. They help out with volume as well. They still produce, they're advertised as being like half as loud as a normal cymbal, which is good, but cymbals are still kind of loud, so I don't think you get away with maybe practicing in any really critical situations with those. But if you're in a pretty well insulated area, you could probably get away with them. They're still metal and they still produce noise, but they're not quite as loud. So also, I think they still offer like some kind of pads that you can throw over an acoustic kit and throw over your cymbals. It's not going to quite feel like a drum kit anymore, but hey, whatever you got to do to get practice in is what you need to do. So in addition to that, there's metronomes, which are timekeeping devices to help you train your timekeeping abilities. There's headphones, great for electric drums. And other options, if you want to be more creative, is maybe if you got the resources, you can even rent a space somewhere where you can practice your drums. So, hey, we're musicians. We've got to be creative, and even if we have to be creative about practicing, that's what we need to be doing. So, practicing is definitely a key element in becoming a great drummer. All right, so we're about halfway through here. Hope everybody's enjoying it so far. Hope you're learning some things. Hope you're getting some tips on how to be a great drummer. Again, this is Josh from parttimedrummer.com, where we offer online drum lessons and courses. And, tonight is our free training, trying to help you out on becoming a better drummer. So, step number 6. We already kind of mentioned it a little bit, but you want to be creative as a drummer. You don't want to be a boring musician. You don't want to be a boring drummer playing the same beat for every song. That's horrible. So what are some ways that you can eliminate doing that? These are just a few tips. There's so many other things you can do to be creative. But here's a few here just to get you started for some ideas. Is trying a different drum setup. So if you're always playing the 4-piece drum setup, switch it up. Go to 2. Go to 3, or go the opposite direction and get a 10-piece drum set. What I have found in my playing as a drummer is that if you experiment with your drum setup, and you'll see a lot of professional drummers doing this as well, so it works. If you experiment with different setups, setting your drum setup in different ways, different configurations, it forces you to play them differently. Because, you got a different set. You got more access or less access, whichever way you want to go, to drums and tones. and different services and things like that. So just rearranging your drum set from what you're used to can really make a difference in helping you to play more creative. As I mentioned earlier, another way to be creative on the drum set is to learn different styles of music. So if you learn different styles, you can obviously play a lot of different things. And what I would really like to do, really like to see you doing, once you get to the point of, obviously having enough coordination ability to do this, but I would actually like to see you fuse styles together. So is just like the example kind of says here. I don't know if this would work or not, but it's just an idea. What if you had a country song and you threw a jazz beat into it? What would it sound like? I'm not saying it would sound good, but what I am saying is you need to experiment with mixing up different styles. So take one style and try to insert it to a different style of music that you might be playing at the time. And if you can get it to work, you've came up with something really cool and something really innovative, which is kind of what we want to do. Another trick I like to use sometimes is try playing the drum standing up. If it's a fairly simple drum beat, this can work really well. And this doesn't necessarily make you a better drummer or more creative, but it's very engaging, especially if you're playing live. So if you're at a really simple drum part, kind of maybe even where the drums are just playing a simple beat by itself, see if you can play it standing up. It'll get the crowd interested in it and kind of challenge you as well. There are actually cocktail drum sets that are designed for this, where they actually are designed for you to play standing up. So it's not way out in left field or something completely crazy. It's something that actually happens. And I've seen drummers do this. I've seen drummers bring the cocktail drum set to the gig because it's small and portable, and they play it standing up, and it's really cool and exciting. So something to think about. Also, instead of, typically when you think of changing your setup, you might think of like adding more toms or cymbals, and that's a perfectly great idea. But have you ever thought about taking things away, especially like really essential components? So think about like our example says, what would happen if you took your hi-hat off your drum kit? Just take it off. How would you have to play then? The beats that you normally play. Are you going to go straight to the ride cymbal? Are you going to try to play that pattern on the tom? Or is it going to force you to play something totally out of the ordinary, which is what we're trying to get you to do? So think about that. Think about removing essential components from your drum set, something like the hi-hat or the snare drum or the bass drum. How is that going to force you to play differently? And you might come up with some really creative ideas. Another tip as well, here kind of the final tip for the night anyway, is try moving the beats around the drum kit. So one thing I like to do sometimes, just to play around with it, and it sometimes comes with some really cool patterns, is kind of invert your bass drum and snare pattern. So if you're used to playing the 1 and 3 on the bass drum, what would it sound like if you played the 1, 3 on the snare drum? And then kind of move that snare drum part either to the bass drum or to a tom or something. It's all about being more creative. Or another thing I like to do is, what about instead of playing the notes on the snare drum, that you move them over to the tom? That's a it's pretty common technique as well too. So like I said, there's many more ways to be creative. Just get on YouTube and watch some other drummers play. You can pick up some of their creative tips and tricks that you might be able to incorporate into your own playing. So that's just a couple of ideas to get you started on being creative. Step number 7 to becoming a great drummer. And this may not seem obvious to a lot of people, but one way to become a great drummer is actually to learn another instrument besides the drums. And here are the reasons why. Number 1 is you increase your value as a musician. So obviously, if you can play more than one instrument, you're more versatile. Obviously, one of the common instruments for drummers to learn how to play is the bass guitar, because the bass guitar and the drum set kind of work so closely rhythm-wise. So that's a great instrument to transition to. But of course, drummers have also transitioned to guitar and to piano as well. Another reason to learn another instrument is that it improves your listening skills and you'll have a better ear. So if you learn a different instrument, you're going to be listening, or you're going to understand how that instrument works. So when you're playing the drums, you're going to kind of know what makes that other instrument works and kind of what would complement that instrument well when you're playing the drums. In addition, you're also going to learn, if you move to the more melodic instruments such as guitar and piano, you're going to learn more about the melody and different rhythms they use for those instruments and the dynamics, which are going to increase your ears and your skill as a drummer as well, because you're going to know what those musicians are trying to play, and you're going to know what needs to be played on the drums to complement and for you guys to make a great combined sound. Also, it's just really cool to think about if you can switch to another instrument, especially if you're playing with a live band. You know, for one set you could, or one song, you kind of move over and play a different instrument. That is just, it's a really cool thing to see, and crowds really love it, and it makes you really cool as a musician as well. So I definitely suggest giving it a try. Okay, so back to more of the general drum discussion here. Step number 8 to becoming a great drummer is to master time and time signatures. So you might think, well, duh, you know, we're drummers. We have to do that. But it may not be as obvious as you think. First of all, I definitely recommend again that you invest in a metronome. A metronome can be, well, what it is first is a metronome is it's a device that is designed to help keep time. And other musicians use these too, not just drummers, so don't think they're created just for drummers. But most metronomes today are electronic based, so they're very versatile in being able to play at a variety of tempos, which is speed, and a variety of time signatures. Some of the most common time signatures used today are 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and 6/8. Those are just the minimums you need to be able to play for most styles. If you get into a lot of more complicated styles, jazz, progressive rock, fusion, kind of things like that, you're probably going to have to learn some really odd time signatures. But you definitely want to be able to play those 4 at a minimum. So another advantage to be able to play the time signatures, going back to the styles, some of the different styles of music actually use different time signatures. Now the most common one is 4/4 time, which is generally what you kind of hear on the radio from most popular music, you know, rock, pop, country, R&B. So 4/4 is the most common style, but if you get into other styles, they're often going to incorporate other time signatures. So you definitely want to learn a lot about those. One of the most critical reasons for you to be a solid drummer and to be able to stay in time well is because of the click tracks or backing tracks that studios use, live bands use them now, and churches use them as well. So it's almost, it is now a critical fundamental skill as a drummer for you to be able to stay on tempo and to stay up with the music. So and one of the easiest ways to do that is to start practicing. Every time you practice, if possible, use a metronome. It'll help you improve your timing. And another advantage of the metronome too is that it helps you to measure your abilities. So if you played at 100 beats per minute last week, try blowing up to maybe 102 and see if you can do that. It's almost like working out. If you want to improve your timing and your speed and your technique, a metronome is a tool that can help you measure that. So, master time and time signatures. Step number 9 to become a great drummer is you want to master dynamics. And so, first of all, let's define what dynamics are. Dynamics are the ability to play drums at a variety of volumes. So, can you play something soft? Can you play something kind of in between? Can you play things really loud? And can you be able to transition? This is the key. Can you transition from loud to soft or soft to loud or anything in between musically and with taste, even within a context of a song? Because this happens quite frequently. You go from a soft part and you build it up to a loud part. And you take it from a loud part and you bring it back down to a soft part. Well, as a drummer, you want to be able to play effectively and well at whatever volume that you need to do that with. So that's a critical thing that you need to practice. And it goes into with the thing like we've been saying, the different styles. Different styles use this in different ways. So, just listen to some of your favorite songs and start becoming aware of some of the dynamic changes that you hear there, and become aware of how the drummer handles those. So another component of dynamics as well is kind of cover this in the practice section, but the ability to actually control the natural volume of the drum set. The drums can be a very loud instrument, but there are occasions and there are gigs and there are certain times when you can't play at full volume. I personally think the drums sound really good when you're whacking them hard. I think that's when they sound the best. But you can't do that in every situation. So if you're playing at a live wedding gig, you can't play a soft jazz piece at full rock drum volume. You're just going to make everybody angry and kind of ruin everything. So what can you do to improve your dynamic palette, your dynamic offerings, your dynamic tools? One tip I would suggest is getting a variety of drumsticks. So they make drumsticks in a large variety of sizes and shapes. I recommend that you get a few of them, ranging from very small light drumsticks to very big and heavy drumsticks. So that'll give you the ability to kind of control your volume there and control your dynamics. They also sell brushes, which are either plastic or wire stranded. They almost kind of look like a fan. It's the best way I can describe them if you haven't seen them. But they make a kind of a swishy, clicky sound on the drums. Not really loud, used mostly in jazz kind of pieces. Kind of the in-between of those is kind of what they call rods, which are they're kind of like drumsticks, but they're almost like a bundle of small, really, really small sticks, and they kind of tape them, kind of band them together, and they're quite interesting. They make a quite interesting sound, and I like to use those as well for times when I need to play something at a kind of softer volume, but I still want a nice feel to the drum set. There are also, various muffling devices that you can get to make your drums less loud. Or if you want to go the opposite direction, you can get electric drums, which electric drums still make noise, but most of the time that noise is acceptable. The impact noise of you actually hitting the drum is acceptable and doesn't go over whatever is coming out of the PA system. And of course, we've already talked about reduced volume drum heads. But you can also get a variety of drum shields and drum deflectors to help control the natural volume of the instrument. And step number 10, the final step to becoming a great drummer, is to play with musicians better than you. Yeah, it is challenging. Yeah, it's going to maybe hurt your ego a little bit. But playing with people who are better and more experienced than you, it challenges you. It challenges you to rise to their level. You want to go. We're all trying to get better. So if you play with people who are better than you, it's going to force you to play better because you want to sound good as like they do. So plus you'll be able to pick up their habits. You'll be able to see how they do things, pick up their tips, and get advice from them. So if you're the best musician in the room, you're in trouble. You need to find people who are going to challenge you to grow, because that's what we're all trying to do here. All right, so there you have it. There are the 10 steps to becoming a great drummer. So I hope you're inspired. I hope you came away with some great ideas of how you can start working to improve your own skills. And if you are ready to take action, now is the time to do it. So if you need a little bit extra help, we are here to help you with that. Some of you may be able to take this and do things on your own, and that's great. Commend you for that. But if you need a little additional help, the part-time drummer, we are here to do that. So I would consider or ask you to consider a membership with a part-time drummer today. So, kind of what are the advantages of becoming a member of the part-time drummer? Well, of course, we've already talked about this a little bit, but you have location independence. You can take drum lessons anywhere that you have an internet connection. You can just hop up there. You can go through some lessons. You can do this 24 hours a day. You don't have to wait on anybody. You don't have to go to the local drum shop and try to deal with somebody else's schedule. Anytime you're ready to go, they're there for you. They're also very affordable, which we'll talk about here in just a second. You can study at your own pace. You can kind of set things up to, be able to, you can learn whatever you want to learn, whenever you want to learn it. There's nobody forcing you to go through their method, through their way. We have a variety of courses up there. We've got 3 main courses, and a bunch of mini courses, but you can take the courses in any order you want. Now we recommend that you go in a certain order, especially if you're just getting started, but you're free to do whatever you want. So those 3 courses include Snare Drum Mastery 101, which is our kind of intro fundamental snare drum technique course. It covers the drum rudiments. It covers how to read music. It covers proper snare drum technique, how to use a metronome. It's a 15-hour course. It's packed with tons of information. It's great not only, though, for beginners, but also for other drummers, too. I'm sure everybody can learn something from it. After that, we have Beginner Drum Set Beats 101, which covers how to set up your drum set properly for the maximum amount of comfort and the best playing experience for you. We also teach you how to read and play quarter note and eighth note drum beats. After that, we have Beginning Drum Set Beats 102, which covers 8 notes and 16 notes on the drum set. Those are just our main large courses. We have a variety of mini courses as well, which covers a wide range of topics, including things such as how to buy a drum set, how to find a good drum set and get a good deal on a drum set. We even have many courses on how to practice effectively, and we've got courses on how to play drum fills. We're constantly adding new courses, so you can expect to see new things come out regularly. And also for our members, we're kind of running a little promotion here right now. If you sign up for the part-time drummer and you've been struggling with a particular concept, we might be able to even create a mini course just for your particular situation. So you definitely want to consider that when considering a membership. A lot of these lessons also have PDFs that go along with them, so you can download those and you can write on them. And you can have something that you can work off of. We offer email support. Again, my email is josh@parttimedrummer.com if you ever have any questions. We've got actual forms built into our website, our membership website, where you can ask questions and interact with other members. And if you would like and you need additional help, we also may be able to get on a phone call together and kind of do like a video chat, Skype chat kind of thing for additional help and support. So if you have any questions for me, you can definitely reach out to me at the methods I've already kind of talked about. But I would go ahead and right now consider consider joining. We don't have a tab right now on this specific webinar because we're using YouTube for the live, but if you go to parttimedrummer.com right now, it's very intuitive. There will be a place for you to sign up right now and get started with drum lessons even today. Start looking at the courses and start getting better even today. So this is what the the website looks like. This is a slightly older version. We've upgraded the website since this was recorded, so it looks a little bit different, but it still has the main components here. So you have, the main page. There's a contact page to get in touch with me. There's a page kind of covering my my background again. And there's a page for you to go ahead and start taking lessons there. And then there's even a free lesson section. So if you're not quite ready to pull the trigger, but you still want to learn some things, there's a free drum lesson section on the website where you can go, and there's articles and there's video demonstrations for you to check out there. Okay, so like I said, the website has been updated since we came out with this, but it works very similar. Once you're ready to take lessons, you just go to the appropriate button and you go to the membership page. Now, this is an older price page, and I have a deal for you tonight. As of now, most of you may not know this, but we have actually come out with a new pricing tier. Right now, you can become a part-time drummer member for just $19.99 a month. That's a killer deal. That's actually cheaper than some of the other online competitors out there, and I feel like we actually have more value. So for $19.99, you can get a membership that includes all of what used to be included in the $50 membership. So you get video lessons, downloadable PDFs, unlimited email support, customized lessons plans, and even coaching calls with me, all for $19.99 a month. So now is the time to get in there while we're still offering that price. When you go to sign up, it's going to look very similar to this, except for that the price is now $19.99. You're going to fill out your information, fill out your payment things. The payments are by credit card right now. You would sign up there. And then once you get all signed up, you're going to be able to get access to the Part-Time Drummer member page. And you can see all the main courses are listed at the top there, as well as a section for the forums where you can ask questions and interact with other members. And then you're going to see the list of all the courses that we offer. You can see that we've got everything for the beginner to get started, from getting your gear, some practice tips. And then the courses are laid out in order of complexity. From there's the Snare Drum Mastery 101, the Beginning Drum Set Beats 101, Beginning Drum Set Beats 102. So it's very intuitive. And as you can see, there's new courses coming out very soon. So there'll be plenty of stuff for you to work on. Right now, there's tons of stuff in there already. I can't give you an exact amount of hours in there, but I'm guessing there's at least between 20 and 30 hours of material already in there, and we're going to be adding more very soon. So if you wanted to know a little bit about each course, here's the Snare Drum Mastery 101, just kind of what it's all about. These are available on the website too, so you can go over there and check these out. now. I'm trying to get through this because I promised you we'd be done in an hour, and we're kind of right at that mark. So all this is available on the website if you want to check it out. This is kind of what the lessons kind of look like. You have your lesson laid out with what you're going to learn in a lesson. You have your video, and then down below you have your PDF that you can download. So like I said, special offer for you today. We've got tons of offers here. Not only are you going to get a copy of the webinar, if you would like, just email me and I can give you free access to the Part-Time Drummer ebook. And you're going to get that special price of $19.99 today. So again, for those of you who are getting signed up right now, welcome to the Part-Time Drummer. Get ready to start learning and transforming your drumming skills. I'm very excited to be working with you here. And for the rest of you, thank you for joining us here tonight, spending your Friday night with us. Here's my contact information again. There it is written out for you just so you can get all the spelling and stuff correct. Go check us out, Go see what we have to offer. Definitely want you to sign up as a member, but would love to hear from anybody, any questions that you might have. And once again, thank you for taking your time out to spend with us tonight. I hope you've learned a lot, and I hope to see you soon. We'll definitely be back here very soon again with some more live, free drum tips and training things there. So until then, have a good one. See you soon. Again, this is Josh from the Part-Time Drummer, and we are out.